Wichita's Biz That Is, and our guest today, Harlan Priddle. I'm Tim Witzman. Off camera, we were talking a little bit about housing, and that is an issue for smaller communities because most of the home building in the United States has been taking place around the metros, correct?
Correct.
So tell me a little about that and how it affects the folks you care about.
Yeah, the housing in every small community that we've been working with K96 is always at the top of the list because they realize that people are passing them by, so to speak. And the key thing about housing today is that, as we mentioned off camera again, that people don't move to work these days. They usually drive to work. So the first thing about housing, if you're going to attract housing to your community has to be a place where people want to live. You got to have good infrastructure. You have to have some kind of shopping capability, maybe not total, but you got to have something that they want to live there. They want schools. They want a safe, secure. They want recreation. They want a community where they feel good when they drive up. You know, when you buy a house, curb appeal is the first thing. If you don't like what you look at when you drive up, you better buy it.
Well, I've been looking for ways to talk about basketball, but Fred Van Fleet, no, I'm sorry, it was Cleanthony. It was his family where they were in the Bronx.
Yes.
And after a friend of his was shot on the street, she said, enough of that, and she took him and moved out.
Yeah.
It took 2-hour bus rides to work.
Yeah.
But that was the reason, so that he could have a safe environment and she didn't have to worry about her kids getting killed.
That's right. Particularly in this.
I'm not trying to make that comparison
No,
because
no.
I live in Wichita and I don't think it's unsafe.
No. But this region is such, as we looked at some statistics recently, for example, even though Wichita is the hub for manufacturing, Dr. Hill at Wichita State just gave a presentation, and Jeremy indicated that even though manufacturing is the hub here, 31% of the people who are occupying manufacturing jobs live outside the county. That emphasizes housing.
And they drive us from as far away as Pratt.
Exactly. So as getting into the housing thing, I think the key need in communities is what I would call not necessarily low income, but affordable. But affordable.
I agree with that.
If you can't afford it, you're not going to move there. And you got to build a house that people can afford.
When I was in grad school, I read this wonderful piece, and it was about housing in California. And it went through and analyzed the market to kind of figure out what was wrong. Now, you imagine things were cheaper then, but they were still more expensive than in Wichita.
Sure.
And I read this whole thing, and I said, boy, they've really identified a bunch of things. I had 11 things written down. These are policy things you could change. State government could change it, local government. Their conclusion was state socialism. And I went, what? But ever since then, that's been one of the little things I've never been able to be successful with, is so much of the ability to build affordable housing revolves around the rules and such. You couldn't do it in California. The fees you pay alone are as much as an average house or more in Wichita before you even start to build it. So what the government does, and people don't understand, you've got to have those kind. In small towns, we used to have that. The rich person lived next door to the small. Or the not well-off person. Not so much in cities.
Not so much, no.
So what kinds of things are your places trying to do then to foster more?
I'll just cite one community. One community said in the housing we have 3 basic areas we want to look at. Number one, we want to look at low-income housing because there are people in our community because of surveys that they did. So we have to provide that kind of thing. Maybe manufacturing housing would fit in that. But the second is the affordable. The affordable housing, which they even put a dollar tag on it. They put affordable housing is 125 to 175, and that's the people who would maybe work at a plant in town that could afford to buy that house. But the last housing they put in was a custom level. That's somebody who really wants to move to town from the farm and build a $300,000 house. So that's the kind of thing. But
I was in that affordable when I bought my house, okay? That's what mine is.
I think that's where the bulk of the people are. But I think the key thing in talking about housing is something that we were visiting about is the community must be ready for housing. They must provide the basic environment for a builder and the associated people associated with that housing to make a living. They're not going to come to a community that's not ready for housing. They have to have infrastructure. They have to have environment. They have to have services. And unless that's there, people aren't going to move.
And not barriers.
That's right.
It's not one of those, this is one of the things government could, as you know, I ran local government. And the things that would drive me crazy are when you'd find out that a builder was doing something, and then when he's already got something in, some inspector comes along and says, well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me that? I gave you all my plans. You've had all this stuff. Why now are you telling me I can't do that?
Well, I think that emphasizes what in housing, it's a team effort. It's a team effort between the customer, which is the buyer, the builder and the planners, and the community city that's providing it. That's the team. If that team isn't together, it ain't going to be a very good program.
No, it won't, because what you do is you turn off the builders.
That's right.
I won't mention names, but I know times when builders have said, I'm not building in X place, because it's just, they make it too difficult.
That's right. That's right. You know, customer service in small communities is very important, because sometimes the only person in a small community sees is either the city clerk or the city administrator. You know, so that customer service is as important in selling the environment and attitude of the community in a small community as it is in a bank, because you got to want to come in, you know.
Well, I think the guy who said that stuff really well was Andy Young. Remember him? Civil rights leader, became mayor of Atlanta. And everybody thought he was going to be a kind of civil rights kind of guy, and he said, no, first thing is I open the door to business. He says, because I've got to have business to make any of the things I want for the community work.
That's correct. That's right.
All right, well, we've settled those issues. We're going to come back with some more in just a moment with more Wichita Biz That Is.